Hi and welcome in this very short class about some historical patterns in Italy and Latin American relations. Scholars in history and international relations studies have stressed in Latin America and in particular in Brazil the importance of the relation between ethnic identity and foreign policy related to the Italian case. Since the 40 years after the Risorgimento, in the second half of the 19th century, Italy had to manage an important migratory flow that was mainly directed towards Latin America. The highest concentration was achieved in Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay. Thus, the first agreements and relations sought to create an institutional framework for this movement of people. In the early 20th century, Italian political discussion also spoke of a commercial colonization, trying to exploit the immigrant community for national development and at the same time justify the national hemorrhaging of labor. In the 20s and 30s, the climax of this process can be observed when the fascist project for immigrant communities in Latin America produced an articulated set of actions in favor of the diffusion of Italian culture, but in association with political propaganda and Italian grandeur. The Italian contribution to Brazilian national identity through the long historical process based on immigration is the common capital accumulated over time, which makes the bilateral relations between Brazil and Italy dynamic. The same argument could be applied to Uruguay and Argentina, whose mark of Italian presence can be found in their daily life and thinking of themselves as a nation. Starting from this premise, the aim of this podcast is to think from a historical perspective about the process of building cooperation between Italy and Latin America, considering the presence of Italian immigrants and their descendants in a double perspective. On one hand, the presence of a community of Italian descendants in Brazil has facilitated bilateral relations, has created an idea of a communion of shared values. On the other, this imagined proximity has identified the subcontinent with a strategic reserve, naturally intervened with Western civilization as a resource to draw in the times of need. We observe a wave-like relationship between Italy and Latin America, with some moments when Italian interest turned to the subcontinent. In fact, in both periods of increased attention to Latin American countries during phases in the 21st century, the impetus was given by Italian companies. On the one hand, immigrant communities are understood as an important link between the two sides of the Atlantic and a resource. Nevertheless, the fluid and changing aspect of identity is not taken into consideration, which often produces romanticized readings of an unchanged Italianness in migratory spaces, today as in the 30s. In addition, the contemporary Italian policy in relation to Latin America is characterized by low investments and qualified professionals and brain circulation of academics as well, for a lack of any research or mobility program linked to Latin American countries. The director of Pirelli Brazil in 1989 made a strong point for the company's success: the continuity of its relationship over time. In the case of Italian foreign policy, it is observed a lack of this persistence and instead a strong intermittence. Moreover, the moments of a revival of Italian interest are also characterized by little institutional action. Following the discussion of the Italy-Latin American conferences and the reports provided by experts for the International Policy Observatory, it can be noted a repetition of the same problems and potentialities, with indications that are repeated on the whole that the peninsula's foreign policy must play. All this suggests untapped opportunities, a lack of actions by the institutions, and an absent organic economic policy aimed to Latin America. A more pragmatic policy towards immigrant communities one that actually sought to understand the terms of this Latin America identity, would also be of great relevance. The development of effective support networks, not only for entrepreneurs, but also for the dissemination of Italian culture and the national university system, as done by other European states such as Germany, France, England, and even Spain, would allow for a new foreign policy approach, where cultural and economic diplomacy would be associated in building new bonds with immigrant communities. Finally, break with the assumption of Latin America as the extreme West, something distant but close at the same time, would allow for a real understanding of the political and economic culture of the region, which one falsely thinks one understands.